Breaking news, minimal editing here, because the most important thing is the news itself. 2. The Russian Federation unveils a new superweapon, yes, in addition to the Burabesnik, which was just unveiled a few days ago. But Vladimir Putin has spoken again and has announced Poseidon. It has the capability to destroy, to wipe entire cities off the map. And not only that, but also to create highly contaminated areas, making it impossible for anyone to return there for at least several years. But in addition, Ukraine is completely surrounded in the towns of Kupiansk and Krasnoyarsk. Vladimir Putin has confirmed it. And not only that, he has made a very juicy and very interesting offer to the media, which are not at all propagandistic, meaning Western ones. Are they going to accept it or not? Stay until the end to find out this detail and maybe the answer to it. Meanwhile, let's start with the key news. Vladimir Putin met today with wounded soldiers who have participated in the special military operation. They were in Moscow when he announced the bombshell, which is now the most important and most talked about news. Poseidon is the name of the new superweapon that has been presented and has already been successfully approved by the Russian Federation. Poseidon is a superweapon, a nuclear-capable underwater device capable of creating tsunamis between 20 and 50 meters high. The torpedo itself, because it really is a nuclear torpedo, actually carries a kind of nuclear reactor, meaning it is powered by nuclear propulsion. The key point is that it is capable of traveling at depths of more than 1 kilometer under the sea, and doing so for as long as necessary. Because, is this what it's about? Its similarity to the Burabesnik is that it has a kind of autonomous nuclear station inside itself, which, moreover, Vladimir Putin has highlighted. It's even smaller than the one in the Burabesnik, which in itself already marked a turning point in military technology. It can travel as many kilometers as necessary and then quietly stay on the coast before carrying out the required attack, that is, waiting for the order. Once it attacks, the tsunamis that are created are, I repeat, between 20 and 50 meters high and are capable of penetrating up to about 50 kilometers inland, creating a very large area that is absolutely radioactive, rendering, therefore, the enemy's economic, military, and, I would say, total capabilities useless. The torpedo itself, or the underwater drone, whichever you prefer to call it, is 1.8 meters in diameter, 20 meters long, and weighs 100 tons. A key point here is that Poseidon does not replace, but rather complements Burabesnik, because a maritime attack can never substitute for an aerial attack. They are absolutely essential, complementary, and lethal to any kind of enemy. We are talking, in this particular case, about Poseidon, which could wipe entire countries off the map. Here, of course, we have to pay special attention to the coast, especially those countries with coastal access, and the context, therefore, becomes extremely clear. Recently, Donald Trump changed his desire for making peace to a desire for making war. His latest statements give us phrases we never expected, coming from the mouth of someone who, until very recently, was hoping to receive the much-coveted Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump now claims that the United States does not want to enter any military conflict, but if it has to, it will be absolutely relentless. It could even be said that he is hinting he would be willing to commit any kind of atrocity. This must be added to the Venezuelan context, and, of course, to the context of the special military operation. While the United States is becoming and showing itself to be increasingly belligerent, the Russian Federation is doing the same, defending itself, but with actions. Donald Trump, however, has not stopped mentioning the super-destructive submarine that they supposedly already have parked off the coast of the Russian Federation, which they can't find. It's not clear whether it's the Russians or even the Americans themselves, but maybe the announcement of Poseidon would be a good counterpoint in case this submarine, if it actually exists, has to move a little away from the coast of the Russian Federation. And in any case, it's a very clear message from Vladimir Putin, at least to the United States, and I would say to NATO as a whole. The Russian Federation does not intend to abandon a single one of its objectives within the special military operation. And also, he's there to get involved in the Venezuelan issue as well, because what about that? We will discuss this in a separate report later this week. Please stay tuned to the channel. Russia is indeed already making moves, not only announcing super destructive weapons, but also sending soldiers, in this case, from military groups. Extremely interesting. Before we continue, extremely important information, both about Buridishchik and about Poseidon. We have exclusive in-depth documentaries for you about these new weapons that the Russian Federation has just unveiled. You can find them on my private Telegram channel by subscribing to it. I will leave the link in the description of this video, as well as in a pinned comment. Do you want to be more and better informed, with in-depth analysis and exclusive information? We'll be waiting for you there. Once again, context is key, but this time from another perspective. The United States was recently stirring things up about the possible delivery of the Tomahawks, with the absolutely clear consequence of attacks deep inside the territory of the Russian Federation. Vladimir Putin has now announced it himself. Russia has surrounded Ukrainian troops in 2 locations at the same time: Kupiansk, Krasnoyarsk, or Pokrovsk, according to the Ukrainians. And not only has he announced it, but he has also invited Western journalists to come and see it for themselves. Yes, you heard that right.
Groups of journalists could enter these populated shelves, see what was happening there, talk to Ukrainian servicemen and leave. We are ready to bring them to certain points so that Ukrainian servicemen on the other side can receive them. The most important thing is to avoid provocations from the Ukrainian side, so that some drone doesn't fly in, none of these journalists get hurt, and then they try to blame us. We don't need that. On the contrary, we are ready to do everything I'm saying. The problem is whether the Ukrainian side is ready.
Yes, the Russian troops have the situation so completely under control that they would be willing to allow Western media to enter, so that, indeed, they could see for themselves the control of the Russian army. Regarding the situation, Vladimir Putin has spoken, of course, about the temporary cessation of hostilities, so that, indeed, Western journalists could find themselves in conditions of minimal safety. Here, we should mention the very possible Ukrainian provocations, but the key question, without a doubt, is whether the journalists in question will end up agreeing or not. Because having to report on yet another very close victory, in this particular case by the Russian Federation, on the ground in Ukraine, does it also have to do with publicly and noticeably acknowledging another defeat for NATO, and therefore, particularly for the United States, which of course and obviously is still behind this conflict as well? And another even more crucial question: how is Donald Trump going to behave from now on? Not just in Ukraine, but in Venezuela too. Because Poseidon, which is not yet fully operational in the armed forces of the Russian Federation, has just been successfully tested. But it will have to be incorporated very soon to actually perform the relevant military service. Poseidon, Buribesnik, and also very soon, the first ones are expected to enter into unarmed service.
One promising system is the unmanned underwater device Poseidon, also with a nuclear power plant. This is a huge success, but the power of Poseidon significantly exceeds even that of our most advanced intercontinental range missile, Sarmat. There is nothing in the world like Sarmat. And in our case, it isn't. It will soon enter service, but Poseidon is much more than Sarmat.
They will have to take all this into account when proceeding, not only in Ukraine, but of course also in Venezuela. We are going to talk about this last case in particular on this channel. Pay close attention, because the next video is going to clarify a lot of things about the battle that is happening right now. Russian Federation. Not only, and certainly not just in Ukraine,